All right. Good evening, football fans. Big Al here on this Saturday, January 31st, 2026. And welcome to the Conference Championship edition of the week that was, as we'll be looking at both games. In fact, we'll be looking at the player and team statistical numbers from both games, and we'll recap what happened in those games. So with that, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. And let us begin this conference championship edition of the week that was with the AFC championship game, as the New England Patriots will advance to Super Bowl 60 following their 10-7 victory over the top seed in the AFC, the Denver Broncos. All right, we'll get into the statistics in just a moment, but here's how this game played out. All right, so both teams started with punts. And then Denver had a 5-play, 59-yard drive, which was capped with a 6-yard touchdown pass by Jarrett Stidham to Courtland Sutton. Will Lutz would hit the extra point, and that put the Broncos up 7-0. And then each team would punt. 2 from the Patriots and 1 from the Broncos. And then Denver, after an 11-play, 43-yard drive, turns the ball over on downs. What's up, Anna? How are you? The Patriots would punt again. The Broncos would fumble the football. This was a sack on Jarrett Stidham. Ellis, of course, fumbled the ball, and then Ponder recovers at the 12-yard line, and then 2 plays later, the Patriots would score on a 6-yard touchdown run by Drake May out of the shotgun. That made it 7-7 with 2:10 left in the first half. And then after a couple punts and a couple missed field goals, that would be your halftime score. The Patriots would get the ball to start the third quarter. They would go on a 16-play, 64-yard drive, which ends on a field goal by rookie kicker Andy Borregales for 23 yards. That put the Patriots up 10-7. With 5:29 remaining in the third quarter. The Broncos would then punt. The Patriots would then go on an 8-play, 51-yard drive, which resulted in a missed field goal by Borregales. And then 2 punts by each team to start the fourth quarter. The Broncos would then miss a field goal, which would have ultimately tied the game. The Patriots would punt. The Broncos would then throw an interception as Jarrett Stidham gets picked off by Christian Gonzalez at the Patriot 36. And that came with 2:18 left in the fourth quarter, and the Broncos would not see the ball again. So New England wins this one by a final of 10-7. Let's get into the stats from this game. All right, we'll start with the player stats first. Drake May was 10 for 21 for 86 yards total, and that's 65 net passing yards. Only 4.1 yards per pass with no touchdowns or interceptions. He would take 5 sacks for 21 yards. He had a 62.6 QBR and a passer rating of 58.8. Jarrett Stidham for the Broncos went 17 of 31 for 133 total, 102 net passing yards, 4.3 per pass with 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He would take 3 sacks for 31 yards. He had a 19.6 QBR and a 63 passer rating. Looking at the ground attacks first for the Patriots. Ramondre Stevenson, 25 carries, 71 yards, and a 2.8 average. Drake May ran 10 times for 65 yards and a rushing touchdown. He would average 6.5 per rush. And Travion Henderson was pretty much a non-factor, only 3 carries for 5 yards and a 1.7 average. All told, the Patriots ran the ball 38 times for 141 yards. That's 3.7 yards per rush with 1 touchdown. For the Broncos, R.J. Harvey, 13 carries, 37 yards. He averaged 2.8 per rush. Jarrett Stidham, 4 for 23 and a 5.8 average. Jaleel McLaughlin, 4 carries, 11 yards. Eddie, 1 rush, 4 yards. Adam Prentice, 1 rush, 3 yards. And Pat Bryant, 1 rush for 1 yard. The Broncos ran 24 times for 79 yards. That's 3.3 yards per rush with no touchdowns. And Denver did not rush for more than 9 yards on any attempt. On to the Patriots receivers. Matt Collins, 2 catches, 51 yards on 2 targets, 25.5 average. Stephon Diggs, 5 for 17 yards on 6 targets and a 3.4 average. Hunter Henry, 2 catches, 12 yards on 3 targets. Kayshon Boutte, 1 catch for 6 yards on 6 targets. Both average 6 per catch. Demario Douglas had 1 target and no catches. Ramondre Stevenson had 2 targets and no catches. In total, the Patriots had 10 receptions for only 86 yards. That's 8.6 yards per reception, with no touchdowns on 20 targets. Longest reception was 31 yards by Matt Collins. Reception, 62 yards on 6 targets. He averaged 15.5 per catch. R.J. Harvey, 4 for 22 on 6 targets, 5.5 per catch. Evan Ingram, 2 catches, 19 yards, 3 targets. He averaged 9.5 targets at an average of 5.7. Lil Jordan Humphrey, 1 catch, 5 yards on 3 targets. Elijah Moore, 1 catch, 4 yards on 1 target. Pat Bryant, 1 catch, 2 yards on 1 target. And Jaleel McLaughlin, 1 catch, 2 yards on 2 targets. The Broncos had a total of 17 receptions for 133 yards, 7.8 yards per catch, with 1 touchdown on 27 targets. Their longest reception was 52 yards by Marvin Mims. All right, there were no fumbles for the Patriots, but there was a lost fumble by Jarrett Stidham of the Broncos. It would be recovered by New England's Elijah Ponder. Now to the defenses, beginning with the Patriots. Carlton Davis had 7 tackles, 4 solo tackles. Christian Gonzalez had 6 tackles, 5 solo, with 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and a pass defense. Marcus Jones had 6 tackles, 4 of those were solo, with 1 pass defense. Jack Gibbons, 6 tackles, 2 solo. Clavon Chiasson, 5 tackles, 3 solo, and 2 quarterback hits. Craig Woodson, 4 tackles, 3 solo, with 1 pass defense. Christian Ellis, 4 tackles, 2 solo, with 1 sack, 1 TFL, and a quarterback hit. Khyiris Tonga, 3 tackles, all solo, with 1 tackle for loss. Jalen Hawkins, 3 tackles, 1 solo, same numbers for Anthony Jennings. Christian Barmore had 2 solo tackles, 1 sack, a tackle for loss, and a quarterback hit. Sorry about that. For the Broncos, Alex Singleton led the Bronco defense with a game-high 12 tackles. He had 4 solo tackles to go along with that. Talanoa Hufanga had 7 tackles, 4 solo, with 1 TFL and 2 passes defense. Ioma Wazarike had 7 tackles, 2 solo. DJ Jones, 6 tackles, 2 solo with 1.5 sacks, 2 TFLs, and two quarterback hits, in fact. Dre Greenlaw, 6 tackles. Pat Surtain II had 5 tackles, 2 solo with 1 pass defense. Zach Allen with 4 tackles, 3 solo with 1 sack and a quarterback hit. And Malcolm Roach had 4 tackles, 3 solo with half a sack, 2 quarterback hits, as well as 2 tackles for loss. Jonah Ellis and Quay Robinson each had 3 tackles. Ellis added a tackle for loss, as did Robinson. He also had a sack and a quarterback hit. Alright, so the Patriots defense finished with a total of 59 tackles, 35 solo, with 3 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, 3 passes defensed, and 7 quarterback hits. The Broncos defense had 77 tackles, 32 solo, with 5 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, 3 passes defensed, and 7 quarterback hits. The lone interception in this game came late from Christian Gonzalez. And now we'll turn our attention to special teams. For the Patriots, D'Ernest Johnson had 2 kick returns for 59 yards at 29.5, an average of 29.5 rather. His long return was 30 yards. Tyler Batty had 1 kick return for the Broncos for 20 yards. As far as punt returns, Marcus Jones had 1 for 2 yards for the Patriots. Marvin Mims Jr. had 3 for 8 yards at 2.7 per return for the Broncos. Andy Borregales was 1 for 3 on field goals. Long was 23 and 1 for 1 on extra points, scoring 4 of the Patriots' 10. And Will Lutz was 0 for 2 on field goals. His only point came on a PAT. Bryce Baringer, 8 punts, 303 yards, 37.9 yards per punt. 1 inside the 20-yard line, long punt of 45 yards. And for the Broncos, Jeremy Crawshaw, 6 punts, 309 yards, 51.5 average. 2 touchbacks and 3 inside the 20-yard line. His longest punt was 60 yards. On to the team numbers from the AFC Championship game. Alright, the Patriots ran 64 plays for 206 yards on 13 total drives at 3.2 yards per play. They had 12 first downs in the game, 2 passing and 10 rushing. New England was 6 of 18 on 3rd down and 1 for 1 on 4th down. Hey Lucy, how are you? The Broncos had 11 first downs, 8 passing and 3 rushing. Neither team picked up a first down from a penalty in this game. Denver was 4 for 14 on 3rd down and 0 for 1 on 4th down. Oh, and they ran 58 plays for 181 yards on 12 total drives at just 3.1 yards per play. Denver did have 102 yards passing, 17 completions on 31 attempts, 3 yards per pass, 1 interception thrown, and 3 sacks taken for 31 yards. They finished the game with 79 rushing yards on 24 attempts. That's 3.3 yards per rush. And for the Patriots, they had 65 passing yards, 10 completions on 21 attempts, 2.5 yards per pass with no interceptions thrown, and 5 sacks taken for 21 yards. New England also had 141 yards rushing on 38 attempts. That's 3.7 per rush. And both teams were 1 for 2 in the red zone. Alright, 1 penalty, 5 yards for the Patriots, no turnovers, and no defensive or special teams touchdowns. Time of possession for New England was 33 minutes and 9 seconds. 2 penalties, 5 yards for the Broncos. They had 2 turnovers, 1 interception thrown, and 1 lost fumble. And their time of possession is 26 minutes and 51 seconds. So there's a look at the AFC Championship game. Now we're going to turn our attention to the NFC Championship game. Okay, here we go. Alright, and here it was a more offensive-minded game as the Seattle Seahawks advanced to Super Bowl 60, beating the division rival Los Angeles Rams by a final score of 31-27. That's coming up shortly, but first let's start with the game summary. Alright, the Rams started with the ball. They would punt to start the game. The Seahawks would go 7 plays, 81 yards in 3 minutes and 36 seconds. It would be capped by a 2-yard rushing touchdown by Kenneth Walker. Jason Myers would kick the extra point to put the Seahawks up 7-0 with 9:57 left in the first quarter. And then the two teams would exchange field goals. A 6-play LA drive for 47 yards ends on a Harrison Mevis field goal of 44 yards. That made it 7-3 Seahawks with 8:15 left in the first quarter. And then the Seahawks would enter with a field goal of their own. A 27-yarder from Jason Myers, which made it 10-3 Seattle with 54 seconds left in the first. And that'll take us into quarter number 2. The Rams would drive 8 plays for 33 yards at cap with a Mevis 50-yard field goal. That made it 10-6 Seahawks with 12:11 left in the first half. The Seahawks would pick up a first down on their next series, but would then punt after 4 plays. And then the Rams would drive down the field. They would cap a 12-play, 87-yard drive with a 9-yard touchdown pass from Matthew Stafford to Kyren Williams. Harrison Mevis hits the extra point. This puts LA in front 13-10 with 1:55 left in the first half. Both teams would then punt, and then the Seahawks would drive for a touchdown. A 6-play, 74-yard drive capped by a 14-yard touchdown pass from Sam Darnold to JSN. Myers' extra point made it 17-13 Seahawks. LA would close the half with the football, but again, your halftime score is Seahawks 17, Rams 13. All right, Seattle got the ball to start the third quarter. They would punt after 5 plays. They would punt after 5 plays. And then the Rams did pretty much nothing after that. But the Seahawks did get a turnover, and then they would score 1 play later on a 17-yard touchdown from Sam Darnold to Jake Bobo. Extra point by Myers makes it 24-13 Seahawks. And then the Rams would go on a 4-play, 75-yard drive capped by a 2-yard touchdown pass from Matthew Stafford to Davante Adams. Extra point from Mevis made it 24-20 Seattle with 9:41 left in the third. Then another touchdown drive for the Seahawks, 9 plays, 65 yards. The last play was a 13-yard TD pass from Darnold to Cooper Kupp, the former LA Ram. extra point by Myers made it 31-20. And then the Rams would cap the third quarter with a touchdown drive, 5 plays, 87 yards. Ends with a 34-yard throw from Matthew Stafford to Puka Nacua. Mevis's extra point made it 31-27. And that was at the 2:06 mark of quarter number 3. All right, the Seahawks would punt on their first possession of the fourth quarter after 8 plays and 29 yards. LA would then turn the ball over on downs following a 14-play, 84-yard drive that netted no points. And then another Seattle punt after an 11-play drive for 49 yards. And then the Rams had the ball at the end but couldn't do much with it. And the Seahawks advanced to the Super Bowl by beating the Rams by a final of 31-27. Now to the statistics, and we'll start off with the quarterbacks. For the Seahawks, Sam Darnold was 25 of 36 for 346 yards, 9.6 yards per pass, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He would take 3 sacks for 25 yards, finished with an 82.9 QBR, passer rating of 127.8. The Seahawks ended up with 321 net passing yards. Matthew Stafford for the Rams was 22 for 35 for 374 at 10.7 per pass, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 1 sack taken for 9 yards. He had an 81.5 QBR and a passer rating of 127.6. LA would finish with 365 net passing yards. Looking at the rushing attacks, first for the Seahawks. Kenneth Walker, 19 carries, 62 yards, and a touchdown, 3.3 yards per rush. Sam Darnold, 3 carries, 9 yards. That's a 3 average. George Holani, who is the backup running back for the injured Zach Charbonnet, 3 carries, 4 yards, only 1.3 per rush. Rashid Shaheed ran once for no gain. Overall, the Seahawks ran 26 times for 75 yards. That's 2.9 yards per rush with 1 touchdown. Longest run was 14 yards by Sam Darnold. For the Rams, Blake Corum had 9 carries, 55 yards, averaging 6.1 per rush. Kyren Williams, 10 carries, 39 yards, 3.9 average. Matthew Stafford, 2 carries, 16 yards, and an average of 8. And Puka Nacua, 1 rush, 4 yards. The Rams, all told, ran 22 times for 114 yards, 5.2 yards per rush with no touchdowns. Longest rush was 19 yards by Blake Corum. All right, on to the receivers. For the Seahawks, Jackson Smith and Jigba, 10 receptions, 153 yards, 1 touchdown, 12 targets, 15.3 average. Rashid Shaheed had 1 catch for 51 yards on 3 targets. Kenneth Walker, 4 catches, 49 yards on 4 targets. That's an average of 12.3. Cooper Kupp, 4 for 36 and a touchdown on 6 targets, an average of 9 per catch. George Holani, 3 catches, 27 yards on 4 targets, also a 9 average. Jake Bobo, 1 catch, 17 yards, and a touchdown on 2 targets. And A.J. Barner, 2 receptions, 13 yards on 3 targets, and a 6.5 average. Seahawks receivers had 25 catches for 346 yards. 13.8 yards per reception with 3 touchdowns on 34 targets. The longest reception for the Seahawks was 51 yards by Rashid Shaheed. For the Rams, Puka Nacua had an average of 18.3 per catch. Devontae Adams, 4 catches, 89 yards on 6 targets, 22.3 average, and a touchdown. Colby Parkinson, 3 for 62 yards on 4 targets, 20.7 average. Blake Corum, 3 receptions, 24 yards, 3 targets, 8 average. Kyren Williams, 2 for 22 and a touchdown on 2 targets and an average of 11. Ronnie Rivers and Terrence Ferguson each had 1 target, and Kanata Mumfield had 2 targets. Neither recorded a catch. So that's 22 total receptions for the Rams for 374. That's an average of 17 yards per catch, with 3 touchdowns on 34 targets. Longest reception was Puka Nacua for 44 yards. All right. The Rams had 4 fumbles in this game, 2 from Xavier Smith, including 1 lost fumble. And then you had a fumble by Matthew Stafford and another by Colby Parkinson. The Seahawks would fumble the ball twice, once by Sam Darnold, the other by A.J. Barner. All right, looking at the Seahawks defense, Ernest Jones had 8 tackles, 6 solo. Devin Witherspoon, 6 tackles, 6 solo with 2 passes defensed. Drake Thomas, 6 tackles, 1 solo. Nick Emanwari, 5 tackles, 4 solo with 3 passes defensed. Byron Murphy, 5 tackles, 3 solo. Julian Love, 4 tackles, 3 solo. Tyrese Knight, 4 tackles, 1 solo. Josh Jobe, 3 tackles, 2 solo. Eric Saubert, 3 tackles, 1 solo. And then DeMarcus Lawrence will be playing in his first ever Super Bowl. 2 tackles, both solo, with 1 sack, 1 TFL, and a quarterback hit. Reek Wallen had 2 total tackles, both solo, with 2 passes defensed. For the Rams, Omar Speights led the team with 11 tackles, 7 solo, and 1 TFL. Quentin Lake, 7 tackles, 3 solo, and 1 pass defensed. Nate Landman, 6 tackles, 4 solo, with a TFL and a pass defensed. Roger McCreary, 6 tackles, 3 solo. Kobe Durant, 5 tackles, 4 solo, with 2 passes defensed. Darius Williams and Cam Curl each had 4 tackles and 3 solo tackles apiece. Cameron Kitchens, 3 tackles, 2 solo, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and a quarterback hit. Jarrett Verse, 3 tackles, 1 solo, with 1 sack, 1 TFL, and 3 quarterback hits. Braden Fisk, 2 tackles, both solo with a sack, 2 tackles for loss, and a quarterback hit. And Colby Turner had 2 tackles, both of them solo, with 2 quarterback hits. All right, so the Seahawks defense would register 60 tackles, 36 solo tackles, with 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, 7 passes defense, and 3 quarterback hits. The Rams defense finished with a total of 65 tackles, 38 solo with 3 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, 5 passes defensed, and 7 quarterback hits. Neither defense would record an interception in this game, so we'll go straight to special teams. All right, Jordan Whittington, 5 kick returns for 116 yards, 23.2 average, long return of 25. And Ronnie Rivers, 1 kick return for 29 yards. So the Rams had a total of 6 kickoff returns for 145 yards, averaging 24.2 yards per return. The Seahawks had only 1 kick return from Rashid Shaheed for 21 yards. All right. The Rams had 2 punt returns from Xavier Smith for no yards. Harrison Mevis, 2 for 2 on field goals, long of 50, and 3 for 3 on extra points. He would score 9 of the Rams' 27 points. Jason Myers, 1 for 1 on field goals, long of 27, 4 for 4 on extra points. He would score 7 of Seattle's 31 points. Ethan Evans, 2 punts for 84 yards. That's an average of 42 per punt, with 1 inside the 20-yard line, and his longest punt was 43 yards. Michael Dixon for the Seahawks, 5 punts, 226 yards. That's an average of 45.2. All 5 inside the 20-yard line. And his longest punt was 56 yards. All right, team numbers now. And we will start off with the Rams. They ran 58 plays for 479 yards on 10 total drives at 8.3 yards per play. They had 26 first downs, 17 passing, 7 rushing, and 2 from penalties. Late downs were a struggle for LA. They went 1 for 8 on third down and 1 for 2 on fourth down. The Seahawks ran 65 plays for 396 yards on 10 total drives, 6.1 yards per play, with 24 first downs, 19 passing, 4 rushing, and 1 via the penalty. They went 7 of 13 on third down with no fourth downs. All right. The Rams finished with 365 passing yards, 22 completions on 35 attempts at 10.1 yards per pass, with no interceptions thrown and just the 1 sack taken for 9 yards. They ran 22 times for 114 yards at 5.2 yards per rush. LA was 2 for 3 in the red zone. The Seahawks had 321 passing yards, 25 completions on 36 attempts at 8.2 yards per pass with no interceptions thrown and 3 sacks taken for 25 yards. Seattle ran the ball 26 times for 75 yards at 2.9 per rush, and they went 4 for 5 in the red zone. 4 penalties, 30 yards for the Rams, with 1 turnover, that being the lost fumble, and no defensive or special teams touchdowns. Time of possession is 28 minutes and 10 seconds. 6 penalties, 50 yards for the Seahawks. No turnovers for Seattle. Also, no defensive touchdowns or special team scores. Their time of possession was 31 minutes and 50 seconds. So the stage is all set for Super Bowl 60. It will be the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots doing battle at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara, California, on Sunday, February 8th. That's a week from tomorrow, at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Pacific on NBC. And the game is also streaming on Peacock. According to ESPN's matchup predictor, 60% say that the Seahawks will win this game versus 40% for the Patriots. They're expecting clear skies for the most part, or cloudy skies, and temps around 70 degrees at kickoff. As of right now, 7:44 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on Saturday, January 31st. The Seahawks are favored by 3.5 points. Money line is at -230, and the Patriots at +190. The over-under is presently set at 46.5. All right. As for your season leaders, we'll start off with the Seahawks. Sam Darnold, 323 completions on 477 attempts for 4,048 yards with 25 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. Kenneth Walker was the leading rusher for the Seahawks, 221 carries, 1,027 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Jackson Smith-Njigba is the leading receiver with 119 receptions for an NFL-high 1,793 yards plus 10 touchdowns. Laird Williams leads the Seahawks defense with 7 sacks. Ernest Jones had 126 tackles to pace the Seattle Seahawks. Meanwhile, for the New England Patriots, they are led by second-year quarterback Drake May. He went 354 for 492 for 4,394 yards with 31 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. The leading rusher is the rookie Travion Henderson, 180 carries, 911 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Leading receiver for New England is Stephon Diggs, 85 receptions for 1,013 yards and 4 touchdowns. Harold Landry led the New England defense with 8.5 sacks, while Robert Spillane led the team with 97 tackles. All right, quick look at the injury report for both teams. We'll start with the Seahawks. As of right now, offensive tackle fullbacks Brady Russell and Robbie Outs are both questionable. Russell has a hand injury. Outs has a knee injury. Linebacker Chaz Surratt is on injured reserve with an ankle, so we're not expecting him to play. And this is a big piece of the Seattle defense also. Zach Charbonnet, he's on IR with a knee injury. He's not expected to play either. For the Patriots, tight end Hunter Henry is questionable with rest. I'm assuming he will play next week. Same with offensive tackle Morgan Moses, also getting rest. He's listed as questionable. Harold Landry is questionable with a knee. That's one of their linebackers. And their other is Robert Spillane. He's questionable with an ankle. Running back Terrell Jennings, meanwhile, is on injured reserve with a hamstring. All right. Other names we did not mention. We'll start with the Seahawks. Here we go. Let's see. Bryce Cabeldou is on injured reserve with a knee as of January 23rd. Wide receivers Torrey Horton and Cody White are both on injured reserve. Horton has a shin and Cody White has a groin. Both were placed on injured reserve towards the end of the regular season. Of course, safety AJ Finley has been on IR since August with a knee. And running back Kenny McIntosh has been on injured reserve with a knee since late July. As for the New England Patriots, okay, we talked about Hunter Henry, Morgan Moses, Harold Landry. Terrell Jennings is on injury reserve as of January 30th with a hamstring. Wide receiver Matt Collins is questionable with an abdomen. Drake May is questionable with a right shoulder and an illness, but I expect him to play. Defensive tackle Thayer Munford Jr. as questionable, although they didn't disclose the injury. As for the players that are on injured reserve, you have defensive tackle Eric Gregory with a knee, defensive tackle Josh Farmer with a hamstring, running back Antonio Gibson with a knee. He's been out since October. Defensive tackle Isaiah Iton with a hip. Running back Deneric Prince. Running back Lance Larison. He has a foot injury. No word on Prince's injury. He's been out since August. Marcellus Dow Jr., who plays cornerback, had a knee injury. Defensive tackle Jacqueline Roy had an undisclosed injury. Both have been out since the preseason. Offensive tackle Yasir Dursant's been out since training camp at the end of July due to an undisclosed injury. And likewise for fullback Brock Lamp. He's been on injured reserve since training camp, also with an undisclosed injury. All right, so that is the conference championship edition of the week that was. Join me here tomorrow night, or tomorrow afternoon rather, as I will make my official Super Bowl pick for the big game next Sunday night. And for my radio and television folks, we're about to go back into regular programming here in just a few. We will be taking a look at the February radio rankings as soon as they come out. That's going to come in a couple weeks. And my series on TV station history, which I started back last summer, it'll resume on Monday, February 9th. We're still looking at the major television stations in the Los Angeles market. And the next station we'll be looking at in that series is KCAL 9. So make sure you join me for that. In the meantime, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching and enjoy the pigskin. Peace out.